Representative Andre Carson, what brings you to the rally for Gaza today?
Well, we've been fighting this fight in Congress, myself, Sister Rashida, Sister Ilhan, and members of the squad and other Democratic members, but we wanted to show some kind of support to support our legislation and say, let us not squander our voting block as one ummah and one community. We do have a voting block and we have to make our voices heard. And one of the most consequential issues in recorded history, we have to speak up.
And you're a Democrat in the Democratic Party. It's been very difficult to get a lot of Democrats on board with a ceasefire. There's been a few trickling in, and obviously Joe Biden has been very much against the ceasefire. How do you feel about the fact that your position on this and among your constituency is not reflected in the leadership of the party?
Well, I think we're making progress. I think what's going to happen is elected officials are feeling the heat. My hope is that they'll feel it at the voting polls. But, we have to be active and make sure that we're rewarding people who are speaking up against this issue and on behalf of the community, and punish those politically for those who don't, or who come to our communities, make appeals and false promises, and then they renege on their promises. And so I think we're making progress, but as long as elected officials who are doing the right thing, and there's so many of them, they should be rewarded and feel the love from our community. And when they don't, I think we push our resources elsewhere. That's the only way. But if they feel like they're going to have cover politically, you'll see more coming over.
Representative Carson, you take a position that usually gets politicians in trouble, and you've been on this for a long time, but I'm just curious, do you feel the heat? Do you feel the pressure when you come out and call for a ceasefire to go the other way?
I do, but I've been on this issue and I've had to play chess on this issue, and now that I'm spreading my wings, they've dumped a lot of money and trying to come against us, but at the end of the day, you have to do the right thing. Now, granted, in most districts, this issue isn't at the forefront because there are a lot of districts that are suffering. My district, unfortunately, leads the country in food deserts. So my constituents are primarily concerned about the economy, infrastructure, jobs, and schools. And so as long as I'm at the forefront of making sure my district gets resources, like many of us are, we can then talk about these issues in a way where, listening to folks like you and some of the activists, we can educate our constituents about how their taxpayer dollars are being used.
And then, of course, there's the bigger issue, or it's becoming a bigger issue, of escalation. You now have the White House has now bombed Yemen, and there's a risk of this war escalating bigger, into a bigger way in Lebanon, across the region. Are you having conversations with your colleagues about how to prevent this from becoming more catastrophic than it already is?
Well, without speaking out of school, I sit on the Intelligence Committee. I've spoken to leadership in the Intelligence Committee. I've expressed my concern. They know that our military is stretched very thinly. The military force is pretty young. Our intelligence community is stretched very thinly. Our taxpayer dollars are not being used effectively. Where are our global partners to mediate and de-escalate and finally resolve this issue to see that we have a proper Palestinian state? Because this has been a point of contention and a point for recruitment for extremist organizations. And so I think once we get to the point where we can establish a proper Palestinian state, we can move forward.
So I just want to ask you something that maybe you don't get asked a lot because it's not discussed so much, but at least I live in the Middle East, and a broader topic of discussion there isn't even the idea of a Palestinian state anymore because they see it that this is one apartheid state. So a lot of people are starting to call more and more for one democratic state in the area of Israel-Palestine where everyone has equal rights. Is that even a topic that comes up in the building that
you used to? I should ask you your thoughts. What do you think? Do we need a two-state solution or one state? What are your thoughts, sister?
Well, I wish my thoughts mattered. I would love to see equal rights for everyone. I think that's the most democratic thing you could see, but I don't see that being discussed at all. And then lastly, I would ask you, coming into a presidential election year, there's a real risk that Joe Biden could be losing a lot of votes over this. Is there concern that if this continues, you could see another Republican president, another Trump in office? And for some people, you also hear the argument that doesn't even matter. If a genocide is happening under a Democratic president, that is as worse as it gets. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think President Biden has done a good job in many other areas. I think this has been an issue that has really overshadowed what otherwise has been a solid presidency. My hope is that the community does not sit this out, because if people still remain in office and get reelected, they're going to say, they're just going to protest. They're just going to post on social media. They don't have any real leverage. We can go on with business as usual. So I want to make sure we're not squandering our vote and that making sure we're leveraging it in a way that shows we do have political power.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.